This is from the website thewaythetruthandthelife.net. This article by Al Jazeera is a distorted deception. I will share the truth with you. Please take the time to study history. The people referred to here are Muslims. They were not exterminated by Stalin. Stalin exterminated people like the Ukrainians who didn't want to make communes out of their farms. He starved over 6 million to death. My wife's aunt in the early 1930s, living in Armenia, was married to a Ukrainian. They were going to go to Ukraine to visit his relatives, and they wrote back, "Don't come. They're eating people here." They were starving to death because Stalin had taken their food away. Now, remember, in the background, as far as the Russian people, they were told that they're sacrificing to bring roads and schools and hospitals and daycare. They did not have control. Largely rebellious Jewish and liberals had control. Engels had a postulate that marriage was an invention of the powerful males, that they could have heirs to pass on their wealth and power to. Therefore, marriage didn't have to be respected. And he didn't understand child development, the importance of the mother in the home and the mammalian nursing bond, and that marriage out of a caring for one another, and of people that were cared for, that they could raise to the higher levels of caring. It's a no-brainer. They were teaching at the university at NYU back at the turn of the century. The first level of love for a child who gets enough to thrive. If they don't get enough, their death rate from what they used to call marasmus was 30% in Boston around the turn of the century. And it was the wealthy and those that were in orphanages that were dying. But that's a whole other thing. That they call infanopathy, where the child wastes away and becomes vulnerable to disease because they have vomiting and diarrhea. They haven't had enough human interaction to be able to function physiologically. Okay. Communism broke down marriage and the mother in the home, and they're suffering terribly. The levels of ability to care are, first of all, self, narcissistic, then homoerotic, boys like boys and girls like girls. And if there's enough of a foundation, there's a development to heteroeroticism. You can't blame somebody who's homosexual. You can't blame somebody who's sadomasochistic. Yes, they have to be prevented from if they're criminal. They didn't develop any further because they didn't have the mammalian level care and paternal care that's needed to develop. So at any rate, if they have that foundation to develop to heteroerotic level, and if they have a good foundation, then they have a little baby, and it's the first unselfish level of love, a product of their love for one another, and they care for this child and interact with it, and that's what a healthy foundation is, and it's destroyed with daycare. That's why Islam tends to raise physiologically and psychologically more healthy children than this liberal society in America or Europe or Russia. But they indoctrinate them as children, so they're robots. So there's an inbred insanity, the insanity of reasoning perfectly on a false assumption, like Sura number 9. If you read Sura 2, Muhammad had the Sura of abrogation. He thought the Jews and the Christians would follow him, and he had nice suras. Although Jesus was not the Christ, Jesus was just another prophet, lesser than Muhammad. But it's a pyramid scheme of attack and kill if they don't submit when you have the power. If you don't have the power, deceive. I've had Muslim friends. They are victims of this cult. It was hard for my university friends to become a friend. And then when I come to Russia, I've been a Russian resident now for, I think, 14 years. And I have to walk through where all the murders, Muslim murdering has gone on. And the buses that they blow up, and the airplanes that we ride, 2 of them blown up by women with bombs in their burqas. It's just unbelievable. As I start reading the Koran, and here that was, they murdered over 100 million in India. The Roma or gypsies escaped from 900 to 1100 from India, and went in their wagons to Christian areas and have lived for 1400 years. Of course, they're going to the cities and getting corrupted like Western society today. But the thing about this Al Jazeera article, it's not helping Muslims or Christians. It's not saying the truth. The truth is the Quran teaches hate for Jews. They are apes and pigs. Although when the Jews would serve them in Egypt or in Spain, the Jews were part of the ruling class. They were the rent collectors and enforcers. And Turkey in 1490s rescued Muslims from Spain, because the Muslim rescued Jews from Spain, because the Jews were their servants to dominate the Christians, and they were being persecuted by the Christians for what they had done to the Christians. So they either went to Islamic areas or escaped to Germany, and where there were Jews, and with their false stories and hate for the Catholic Church, which was one of the foundations of the Protestant rebellion. But that's a whole another story. This thing about the Muslims in Russia were going to help Hitler. They were joined. The largest Waffen-SS group was Muslim, to join in killing Christians, Roma. When I say Christians, I'm talking what happened in Kosovo and Serbo-Croatia. The hate between the Roman Catholic and Orthodox Catholic goes back from when slave comes from the word Slav, from the German enslavement of the Slavish, the Russians. There's been many dominations and corruptions, but understand, it was the Muslims that were joining Hitler's army. Hitler's army was in the Caucasus. He wanted to go to Iraq and get oil for his war machine. And the Muslims were flocking to join his army. And they had a horse prepared for Hitler with his victory parade when he would come to the Caucasus. And Stalin was Georgian. He wasn't Russian. He set up all kinds of things, giving things to Georgia, people that are not Georgian, and all these problems with Abkhazia and what's the other one? Ingushetia. No, that's not it. There's 2 provinces that he gave to Georgia that aren't Georgian, and Russia's tried to help protect their independence, and there's a whole bunch of false conceptions. The Russian people have been victimized by their leaders, by the selfish, by the rebellious liberals and Jews. As more billionaires in Russia than any other country, and most of them are Jewish, because the top of the Communist Party was largely Jewish, and when it broke up, they made corporations and bankrupted them and took over ownership. That's the truth. So let's help Jews and Muslims see the truth and become decent human beings that can start caring about raising healthy children and having healthy homes rather than living out their narcissistic dreams until they destroy themselves and their own family. Okay, thank you.